How's it, everyone? Welcome back to another versus string review right here on OpenCourt. I'm Kent, and today I'm pitting my two favorite Solinco strings against each other. I've been planning this versus review for a very long time, so I'm finally excited to test out the Solinco Tour Bite versus the Mach 10. Let's check it out. Alright, so the Solinco Tour Bite and Mach 10, these are some of the most popular strings among casual players as well as some collegiate D1 level players. They're pretty advanced level strings because they're both stiff polyester strings. The Mach 10 was released just this past year and I reviewed it and I really liked it. The Tour Bite, I don't think I've ever done a full review of the original Tour Bite on this channel. There are variations of this string. They have the soft and they also have the diamond rough, which I do have a review of on this channel and I like those. But neither of those strings compare to the original Tour Bite in terms of playability and feel. For me personally, at least, this is one of the crispest playing strings I've tried. It's been a very long time since I last tried Tour Bite, maybe 3 to 5 years. It's been a while. Mach 10 is still fresh in my mind, so I'm actually quite excited to pit these two against each other because right off the top of my head, I don't know which one I'm going to like more. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I do believe the Tour Bite was Solinco's very first string, and that's a testament to their string making technology. The fact that their very first string is still extremely popular and possibly their best string. We'll find out today. This Mach 10 is very popular as well because it has a little bit more pocketing compared to some of the stiffer polys out there without sacrificing that feel. This is one of the crisper strings that I've tried this year, and so far it's one of, if not my favorite string of 2025. I really like the Mach 10. So we're going to pit these two strings against each other. They're both shaped. Tour Bite is 4-sided and I believe that Mach 10 is 5-sided. The Tour Bite has a little higher stiffness rating, but the Mach 10 is also on the stiffer side, so we'll see. I'm actually looking for the control and the crisp feel that Tour Bite is known for, and Mach 10 also has that feel. I like that crispness on my aggressive ground strokes because it gives me good feedback to my arm so I know where I'm hitting, but also more importantly, it helps me at the net when I'm hitting angles and drop shots and volleys. So as per usual, I got my two Solinco versus strings in my two booms so I can keep the rackets consistent. This is the Mach 10 in this one here, and this is the Tour Bite in this one, and I got them both strung at 54 pounds, which is my usual reference tension when I test strings in my boom, which is a 16-19, pretty open pattern. So I'm excited to see which of these strings will finally come out on top. The Tour Bite and the Mach 10 are my two top favorite Solinco strings, so we'll see which one is the best and we will crown a winner at the end of this playtest. But before that, if you guys like this content and want to see more, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button to keep the reviews coming. So let's start this comparison of my two favorite Solinco strings with the category of power. First off, I wouldn't classify either of these strings as power strings because they are both quite stiff, but one is considered to be among the stiffest poly strings by the wider tennis community, and that is the Tour Bite. So consequently, stiffer strings provide less energy return on shots because the ball will flatten out against the strings and lose kinetic energy. Therefore, the Mach 10 is clearly the winner in terms of power. It provides more pocketing and more trampoline effect to launch the ball out. It is nowhere more apparent than on my serves. My flat and slice serves require more power than my kick serve, and there was a noticeable boost in power when I was serving with the Mach 10. I had a higher net clearance rate as well on my serves. My ground strokes and slices from the baseline, I had a much easier time sending balls deep with the Mach 10. Interestingly though, the Tour Bite provided me with the illusion of power because it just produces a very satisfying pop, and I felt confident in my aggressive game. But based solely on power, the Mach 10 was the clear winner. Next up is spin. This was a very difficult category because both of these strings provide excellent spin, and I don't think you can go wrong with either choice if spin is a major factor in your string selection. Both are shaped strings that grip the ball well and produce good snapback to get a fast rotating shot. But I did notice a bit of a faster diving shot with the Tour Bite, most likely because the edges of the Tour Bite are sharper. When I would swing low to high on a low forehand, I saw my ball immediately start diving once it cleared the net. The Mach 10 took a fraction of a second longer to start dipping, but it did result in a deeper shot. But because I play mostly doubles, I want to keep the ball low over the net many times, and this is why I noticed this slight difference. Besides that, I did feel the strings were grabbing the ball slightly more on my kick serve, and this resulted in my serve diving down onto the lines. I felt my kick serve was more consistent with the Tour Bite than the Mach 10. My kick serve with the Mach 10 would land out by mere centimeters at times because of lesser spin. So although it is a close contest, I think the Tour Bite just edges out the Mach 10 in spin. Next up, comfort. Not much to say here. I mentioned earlier in the powder category that the Tour Bite is clearly the stiffer string, which means the Mach 10 is the winner in the comfort category. I would advise caution though, because I was comparing Mach 10 to one of the stiffest strings on the market, so the Mach 10 is still a stiff string by poly standards, and I would not recommend this string to anyone with arm pain. The Mach 10 is in the middle of the pack in terms of stiffness among Solinco strings, but that's only because Solinco has so many stiff strings like Barbed Wire, Confidential, and Revolution. I feel the Mach 10 is slightly stiffer than Hyper-G for reference. Next up is the tension maintenance. Both of these strings maintain tension well, and one thing I really like about Solinco's strings is that very few of them require a break-in, maybe only Confidential. The Mach 10 and Tour Bite both play very well when fresh, and there isn't a whole lot of settling in needed to play my best tennis. In terms of maintaining tension and playability throughout, they are both very good. Both strings maintain spin very well, and surprisingly, the mains and crosses don't shave into each other, reducing the spin production. This is another close contest, but I would have to say the Tour Bite is the slight winner in tension maintenance because it maintains its control slightly longer. The Mach 10 starts to fly balls past the baseline once the playtests pile up, and it becomes harder to keep the ball in play if I'm undisciplined with my stroke. Next category, and one of the most important ones for me, control. Solinco strings are known for their great control on full, fast swings, and the Tour Bite is the OG of stiff control strings. The Mach 10 released earlier this year is also a great control string and plays much differently from the control that Confidential is known for. Those boardy and dead feeling strings provide control through sapping the energy from the ball with its stiffness. That will keep big swings in play, but Mach 10 is more of a pocketing control string that allows me to slingshot the ball where I want it to go. Tour Bite is similar, although it doesn't have quite the level of pocketing that Mach 10 does. So basically what I'm trying to say is that control can be achieved in different ways with tennis strings, and it depends on what type of feel you like. That being said, the Tour Bite is the clear winner in control for me because the Mach 10 pockets the ball a bit too much, which causes higher launch angles and pulling the ball wider on cross-court shots. The Tour Bite has a crisper feel, and that gives me confidence to go for lines and corners, but the ball comes off the string bed faster, so I don't ever end up pulling the ball wide on cross-court forehands or pushing the ball deep on full ground stroke or returns. They are both pretty much equal on volleys for control because I have a much smaller swing, but on ground strokes, especially aggressive ones, the Tour Bite is the clear winner. Finally, my most important category is the feel. For me, this is the most important category because I am mostly a touch player. I like to feel the ball when I strike it on an aggressive swing, but also I want the feedback for hitting drop shots and angle volleys. The crisp feel gives me better feedback for hitting my ground strokes because it gives me the confidence to go for smaller targets. With muted and dead strings, I don't have the confidence that my shot is going to land precisely where I'm aiming. Same goes for touch shots. Both of these Solinco strings fall into the crisp playing category, and I enjoy them both on my serve and volley game as well as my aggressive baseline and return game. But the winner in feel is clear. It is without a doubt the Tour Bite. Tour Bite just gives such a satisfying pop when I strike the sweet spot clean. On touch shots, I can feel the exact moment of impact, and that gives me the confidence to go for riskier drop shots where my opponent isn't expecting it. The Mach 10 is just slightly mushier in feel. In fact, it is very similar to Hyper-G in this regard, and that may be why Mach 10 has become so popular so fast. Hyper-G is probably more popular among casual players than Tour Bite because Hyper-G is slightly softer and more forgiving. But for me, I like stiff strings, especially the crisp and lively playing ones, and Tour Bite takes the cake in feel. And lastly, let's talk about some other factors that may affect a player's decision on which string to go with. Tour Bite has been around much longer than Mach 10, and consequently, it has different variations such as the Tour Bite Soft and the Diamond Rough. Also, it has a much wider range of gauges to choose from, going from as thick as 135mm to as thin as 105mm. So Tour Bite has much more options if you fit the profile of a Tour Bite player. At the moment, Mach 10 has 130mm to 115mm. They are both comparable in price and they both only come in their one respective color, so not much differentiation there, but the diverse gauge options means there's more for everyone to try with the Tour Bite. Okay, so now it is time to crown a victor in this Solinco head-to-head matchup between the oldest Solinco string and their newest. They are my two favorite in the Solinco brand. Honorable mentions to Revolution and Outlast, but there can only be one. So without further ado, the title of my favorite Solinco string goes to Tour Bite. Maybe you guys saw this coming, maybe you didn't, but if you guys have been following my channel for a while, you'd know that I'm big on feel, and although Mach 10 has good feel for my aggressive and touch game, it just doesn't beat out Tour Bite. Mach 10 is slightly softer and provides more power, and I do want some assistance in power, don't get me wrong, but the trade-off for more confidence on all of my shots from the baseline and net makes Tour Bite superior in my opinion, and if I had to play in a tournament with one of these strings, it would be Tour Bite hands down. So now let me hear from you guys in the comments. What is your favorite Solinco string and why? Which string, if any, would you like to see me pit against the Tour Bite in an upcoming VS review? Let me know your comments down below and I'll see you in the next review. Thank you for watching this review of the Solinco Tour Bite versus the Mach 10 right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.